Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Populism in Action Project VideoCast. This is our fifth VideoCast in the series, our last one for this season, and it's going to be an excellent one. I'm joined by co-director Stijn van Kessel from London, and by our research fellow for Finland, Niko Hatakka, who's going to be talking to us about his field work in Finland and how that taps into the wider aims of the project. So let's start by introducing Niko's book, Populism in the Hybrid Media System, which is based on his doctorate from Finland. He's published in international journals on this subject, but this idea of populism in the media, which is a big idea of our project, based on eaworldview.com, is what does it tell us about populism and politics, both within a country, such as Finland, and then across Europe? How can we move and negotiate where we're going to be going in European politics in what is quite a tumultuous time, to say the least? This interview follows discussions with Daniele Obertazzi, the other co-director of PIAP, and with Stijn about populism in Europe, and our other research fellows, Judith Seistermans on Belgium, Adrian Favero on Switzerland, and our latest interview, Mattia Zulianello on Italy. But let's kick it off today with a quick question to you, Stijn, on where exactly are we in European populism and right-wing parties because of what's happening where you and I are in the UK with this cliff jump, this no-deal Brexit, with the UK leaving the other 27 members behind. Are right-wing parties trying to take advantage of this across the continent? Are they trying to exploit Euroscepticism? Or are they holding their fire for now?
Yeah, this is becoming a very relevant issue again, not least due to the bumps in the negotiation process with the UK threatening to kind of break the withdrawal agreement. You see that there's actually very little reaction from the side of European Eurosceptic radical right parties in particular. So the populist radical right parties tend to be the most vehement opponents of European integration. But you see that few are in fact consistently hard Eurosceptic or in favor of the withdrawal from their own country. This is not least because support for EU membership remains relatively strong in most European countries and support for leaving the EU relatively limited.
Okay, so where does this go from here in terms of Europe? Are we talking about the idea that a unified European Union stand on Brexit holds everything together? Or are we likely to see, as we get into 2021, some types of ripples which come about where countries try to basically get their own advantage versus, let's say, centrist parties by using Brussels almost as a punching bag?
Yeah, I will. I mean, to be clear, they still use Brussels very much as a punching bag. So radical right parties, populist radical right parties oppose Europe for various reasons. So they see it as a threat to national sovereignty. They dislike open borders and immigration that goes together with European integration. Those in creditor countries do not like money transfers to southern European countries. And they also, related to their populism, they find the EU an elitist organizations that stands far removed from the ordinary people. So they still use this rhetoric very much, but Europe might not be their most important or salient issue in their rhetoric, in their discourse, and it may also not be for their supporters. So what research has actually shown is that these parties are not always entirely consistent in what they say about Europe. And this inconsistency is possible because their supporters do not primarily care about what they say on Europe. So they shift their positions, you might say, in a slightly opportunistic way, but they most still shy away from at least consistently advocating the EU to be dismantled completely or their country to leave.
So there is a real, there's a real pragmatism that's going on here, in other words, that, or what, as you call it, opportunism, which is, look, if they can get political advantage, they'll use the issue, but it's not like they're ideologically fixed to make this their number one priority in the coming months.
Yeah, that's right. So, I mean, of course, it's an interpretation of saying this is an opportunistic strategy, but it does look like that. But they have few reasons to not oppose Europe, because indeed Brussels is a convenient punching bag. But at least in the short to medium term, the Brexit process, because of its chaotic nature, is likely to act as a disincentive for them to place more attention on the issue or to harden their Euroscepticism. But in the future, it remains to be seen whether it is likely that there will be some other cases of populist radical right parties that also advocate the departure from their country of the EU. But this all remains hard to predict when and where this will happen.
Thank you, Stijn. I'm going to have you listen and jump in if you want to, as I turn to Niko. Niko, let me just pick a situation in the right-wing populist party, the Finns party. Does Brexit cause any ripple over there, or is what Stijn is saying is that pretty much, local issues are pretty much the prevailing ones, unless there's an opportunity that can be grabbed to take Brexit and turn it into like some type of local issue?
In terms of the party's Euroscepticism, the Finns party has been a Eurosceptic party ever since its inception, and it has been one of the sort of main ideological frameworks to which the party has clinged on to. In terms of to what extent has Brexit been also a topic of discussion in Finland, not so much. In terms of finding some kind of maybe of some kind of resonance to the discussions with British MPs, for example, or the European Parliament, sure. Euroscepticism as pertaining to sort of questions of national sovereignty, pertaining especially to Finland. In terms of has the Finnish populists' Euroscepticism became more harder, it probably is the case, especially in terms of rhetoric, even though the party still retains to very soft Eurosceptic policies on the programmatic level. But in terms of sort of the party's horizontal communications, the party appears very strongly in favor of even hard Eurosceptic positions.
Well, let's, you've got elections coming up fairly soon, I think, in Finland, municipal elections. And then you've got the national elections, which come up in what, 2.5 years. What's the current situation of the Finns party in terms of which issues? Are they really playing on Euroscepticism? Are they playing on other issues? And how much are they mobilizing support? Are they well positioned to fight those municipal elections?
Well, the Finns party has been in the opposition for about 3 years now. After its landslide victory in 2011, when the party became a proper powerhouse in the Finnish parliament, it enjoyed this very brief stint in government between 2015 and 17. And its participation in that particular government, combined with the effects of the so-called European immigration crisis on Finnish politics, pretty much halved the party's support. And also partially relating to that, the party went through an internal organizational switch in which the party leadership changed entirely from the regime of Timo Soini to the current one led by Jussi Halla-aho. So the party support didn't really recover until a year and a half after the 2017 party congress, which transformed the party pretty drastically. But before the 2019 parliamentary elections, the party very quickly recovered and was able to consolidate its position as one of the largest parties in Finland with 39 MPs. So, and pretty much until the beginning of the coronavirus crisis, the Finns party's position in the polls was excellent. Indeed, the party enjoyed the largest support the party had ever had, with nearly 25% of support in polls. The coronavirus crisis has, to a certain extent, forced the party to kind of step off their confrontational strategies of trying to challenge the perfect opponent provided by the center-left government led by the Social Democrats at the moment. and the Finns party support has decreased back to around the 18% mark that it was in the 2019 EP elections, parliamentary elections. So now that we're coming up to the municipal elections, it's very much an election that is fought pretty much in the field. So the party organization and its, especially the local municipal associations, are pretty much responsible to how well the party will do. And that is very much reflected in the party's ability to gather candidates. And when it comes to the goals that the party has set, they appear very ambitious. The party aims to get over 9,000 candidates, which is a third more than what they had in 2017. So this has somewhat caused concern on the local level regarding whether the local associations will be able to gather as high numbers as possible, especially considering that the candidates should also be of high quality. When you also mentioned the national elections coming up in 2023, the municipal elections will also be very important in the perspective regarding that the Finns party is very much trying to hang on to a possibility of joining in a coalition government with the center-right parties in Finland, and that pretty much necessitates that the party will remain kind of a legitimate non-extreme right, but still firmly populist radical right option by the process in which the party goes about recruiting candidates for the municipal elections. Due to the sort of horizontality of the municipal elections and the party's organizational framework, coming up with thousands of new members and candidates over a very short time poses a very, very strong challenge to the party's institutions to be able to filter through candidates that might appear as threatening to other parties and not sort of too much contaminate the idea of what the Finns party stands for. So currently, the Finns party's ability to join government relies entirely on the shoulders of the center party and the coalition party, and whether they are willing to join in a coalition government together.
Let me just walk that back. I mean, I find it very interesting because I know the project and your work is considering the relationship between organization and issues. And that 2017 setback for the party, where you said support almost halved, from the party's perspective and from your analysis, was that more of a failure on issues, that they just simply seemed to be out of touch on issues such as immigration? Or was it more of a failure of organization, that they just simply weren't prepared for that 2017 election?
Yeah, what happened in the long process of internal change inside the Finns party. It was pretty much kind of a process in which the Finns party's kind of traditionally center-left populist tradition fought with internally with kind of a more populist radical right faction within the party, which is now the current mainstream form of the party. So in the party congress, Timo Soini was ousted, or he stepped down, but his sort of follower to be lost the candidate election via a fully legitimate party congress election to Jussi Halla-aho, and also the three vice leader positions changed hands to so-called supporters of the current party leader. So this was regarded as a reason for the other parliamentary or governmental partners to deem the Finns party unfit for government, which meant that something had to be done. And what happened was that the Finnish party's parliamentary group split in half, and 20 MPs left the group and formed their own group, which continued in government. And after that, the Finns party has remained in the opposition. So in a sense, the splinter group or the defecting group pretty much lost all of their support inside the party's organization, and also lost the loyalty of Finns party activists. So their political careers have now pretty much come to an end. But the party on the ground has remained loyal to the current Finns party leadership, and also in many perspectives, the party organization has started to work more fluently, as they are no longer these particular ideological and kind of conflicts related to organizational cultures between the so-called Soinians and the Halla-Ahoans.
Okay, so I've got it. So unlike other cases in Populism in Action Project, we've got a party that actually moved from a center-left position to a right position. And then, of course, as you move position, you have to develop the organization to kind of follow that and to build on that. And you're saying where we are right now is they have made those organizational changes, but there's a question now of fielding candidates, building on that organization as we come up into the elections. Well, these imminent municipal elections. Have I got that right?
Actually, it's quite interesting that it's sort of the other way around.
Oh, okay.
That the party organization had already been built before this change took place.
Ah, okay.
And sort of the new populist radical right form of the Finns party is riding on the party organization that was built in the early 2010s. So in the during the foundation or founding of the Finns party had only 200 to 300 main hardcore activists and a network of sort of these defunct party associations from the Finnish rural party. But towards the end of 2000s and early 2010s, there was a huge peak in sort of widening in the party's organization, and over 120 new municipal associations were created. And as the party organization itself is very horizontal, it has allowed the sort of current ideological foundations of the party to sort of not infiltrate, but sort of emerge and establish themselves as at the very core of the party's organization. So what happened, I wouldn't say that the current party leadership has done any proper further organizational changes, more than that the previous party regime had already institutionalized certain aspects of making the Finns party a proper mass party that was able to change towards its current populist radical right trajectory.
Let's talk, because your specialism is really looking at this relationship between party, populism, and media. So how much of this change in almost the takeover of the organization by the radical right was through the use of social media, and how effective so far has this new Finns party, this remade Finns party, been in using social media to position themselves, in the national political environment, hoping to get back into coalition in the government?
Well, according to the party elites, there has been a clear organized attempt from the party, especially from the party executive, from the party office and the parliamentary group, to try to control and inform and educate the sort of members of the party's associational culture. So on top of having these physical events and social gatherings at the local and regional levels, the party reaches out to its members, for example, via its print paper, its online news site, its multiple Facebook pages, and its weekly streamed discussion and these news bulletin events. It also has a YouTube channels, and is constantly in contact also via traditional means to party members via letters and emails. But a lot of the party's members, not even mentioning the party's supporters, have a very thin or even a non-existent connection to the party organization itself, and there's often rather little interest in the party's communications among members or sympathizers. So even though most of the Finns party's official activism takes place within the party associations, almost half of the party's around 12,000 members, they are not members of any of the party's associations. And additionally, according to interviews, only a third of the members who have membership in some of the party associations actually participate in any of the party activities. So you can argue that a very significant part of the political activism that shapes what the party stands for takes place beyond the party's official formal organizational structures. And this takes especially place online. So instead of providing an organization in which Finnish party activists can take part in political activism, the Finnish party more has acted as kind of a political signifier, which people can use to participate in political activism using their own sort of individualized understandings of what the Finnish party stands for and what should be done. So this sort of a parallel online activism has very much affected the party ideologically and stylistically, especially considering that the party's radically democratic party congress has allowed the election of a party leadership that supports these ideas that have been originally fostered outside the formal organization.
So we almost have because we've talked with other, research fellows about the relationship between centralized and decentralized. So we have here, would it be fair to say we have sort of like a decentralized activity, which is not one that the parties set up. It's almost like an organic process amongst, loose or unaffiliated members to create this social media activity that then works back to influence the party at the center because of the significance of it.
Yes, exactly. So even though social media has been essential for the rise and sort of transformation of the Finnish party into the party that it currently is, the party organization itself has had little to do with how these ideas have been disseminated and rooted as part of the Finnish political lingo and the ideas of the patriotic nationalism that the party is riding currently. So in terms of organizational control, even though the party organization itself is horizontal in the sense that it has very low hierarchies for taking participation or taking part in the party's activities and so forth, but still very much of the power is centralized in the party executive, meaning that the party executive can pretty much control all membership in the party, both individual and also of associations, meaning that if the party leadership and party executive were willing to take stronger control of the party, it would be able to do so. However, neither the Timo Soini's regime or Jussi Halla-aho's regime has yet to do so.
So the figure of the leader of Halla in this case, does it change the notion of does he have a strong leader's position like we normally think of in other populist parties, or is it a little bit different here because you have this activity which has gone on beyond the party? I guess I'm really saying is how much could he personally command, as it were, quote, loyalty from the membership at this point?
The member base of the Finnish party and the sort of elite actors within the party organization are very loyal to Jussi Halla-aho, and his leadership in the party is very strong. Compared to the leadership styles, I'd say that Jussi Halla-aho has institutionalized kind of a more open and transparent style of leadership within the party organization. He's willing to delegate more compared to, according to my experiences with party elite members, Jussi Halla-aho's not only ideological background, but also his way of being a political leader is something that the party organization very much appreciates and supports also in the future.
Okay, so if I could just ask you one more question on this, there's just so much we could go into, but I think the immediate thing that occurs to me, because again, we've talked about this with other countries, with Switzerland, with Belgium, with Italy, is what's the relationship here between online activity and offline activity, what you might call traditional politics? Are we seeing the Finns party pursue that face-to-face activity in a way that other parties have? Are they trying to break new ground with offline activities? Or is this very much a party which is either from really being driven by the social media environment?
I'd say that it is both. The Finnish party is very much a kind of a traditional mass party in a sense that it has a very wide organization that tries to establish a very strong and wide networks of activists and associations that can provide a channel for these activists to take part in. And what they provide is very much the offline version of political participation that includes meetings on the local levels, participation in local politics, and having discussions also on the regional level. Then there's I'd say that you could argue that there's a kind of second grassroots to the Finns party, which is goes beyond the direct control of individual party associations or in also the party's very strong leadership. So in a sense, the Finns party, what it is today, has transformed through this kind of interplay between these on and offline activities, with this interplay of formally party recognized activism and this kind of parallel forms of online, a more individualistic or individualized online action.
And as we get into these municipal elections, and as the party develops, is there a first amongst equals amongst issues? Is immigration, as in other countries, is that the leading issue? Is it the state of the economy? Or is it this general sense of Finnish sovereignty that you've talked about? Is there one above the others, or do they all basically sort of interconnect with each other right now for the party?
Whereas earlier the Finnish party was kind of a ragtag articulation of different kinds of political demands, I'd say that the current trajectory of the Finnish party relies very much on sort of nativist arguments regarding migration. It's soft Eurosceptic policies that are delivered using very hard Eurosceptic language, and also a kind of a general disdain towards the cultural hegemony of the left. And also at the same time, the Finnish party has taken a step towards the economic right. So that is also one of the sort of avenues through which the party will be able to try to find common ground with the center party and the coalition party.
And I know as academics, we're not supposed to project, we're supposed to just analyze, but I can't hold back from it. Do you, given these developments in organization, given this interesting relationship between the party and its membership, do you see it being on its way to going back into coalition, after, in the next national elections, or is it still too early to tell?
I'd say that there's a strong wish to go back into government, especially as the party's goal is to be the biggest party in Finland and having the prime ministerial position to start the governmental negotiations. But considering that the party has radicalized in the sense that because especially regarding its authoritarian handling of immigrants, and it's kind of unofficially communicated ethnic nativism and these very hard Eurosceptic rhetoric, it will be, the governmental negotiations will at least be very, very difficult, but I wouldn't say that they will fail, definitely.
Niko, thank you so much. I understand you became a father for the first time this summer, so you've been quite busy on other fronts, so appreciate you joining us. You'll be doing field work, I think, and continuing to develop the research for Populism in Action project. What's the current, is there any current article that you're working on, any current piece that we should be looking out for?
Well, currently I'm actually working on mainly funding applications, which is the bane of the academic life. But in the Populism in Action project, we are publishing our Stijn van Kessel and Daniela Bertassi are editing a special issue for Politics and Governance journal regarding the party organizations of the populist radical right in Finland. So that's the next thing that you followers should be looking forward to.
I look forward to that. Thank you again, Niko. Stijn, what do you make of all that? I mean, that's a little bit of a different picture for me in terms of what's happening in Finland from what we've had from the other countries in the project in terms of that relationship between party and membership. And it's interesting to me that it doesn't work out as that stereotype of a right-wing populist party. There's been quite a trajectory there.
Yeah, that's right. At the same time, I would say there's also, again, some general lessons to be learned from that may also apply to the populist radical right in general. So it's yet another populist radical right party that overcomes a serious internal split. And the part that remains successful is in fact the part that follows a typical populist radical right playbook. So you see that, yeah, among European population, the policies of the populist radical right, at least among a certain segment of the situation. And also, like the Flemish interest, we discussed that briefly, that it also went through electoral up and downs, but it remains a durable feature of its national party system, even though obviously the winds are sometimes blowing against it, and sometimes I don't know how to say that in English. It goes through electoral up and downs like any other party. So when a party like that suffers either electorally in its popularity, or due to mainstream competition, or due to internal party splits, it doesn't necessarily mean it's the end of the populist radical right in that party. And we need, observers need to be careful about that.
So we can.
The second message I think from this case is that as social media can be a very important additional tool of the mass party 2.0, if you like, in addition to offline networks, which also remain important for those parties. So at the point of this project, by means of a study of populist radical right parties, is that the mass party is not gone and lives on, even if it's often claimed otherwise. But clearly, the mass party has evolved, and it's a different mass party than the one that it was originally conceived of, when there was clearly no internet yet.
You got quite a project here with this special edition you're editing with Daniela Obertazzi that Niko talked about to bring all this together.
Yeah. Don't hold your breath. It will be quite a while before it's published, like typical for academia, but it will come out, we promise.
Well, my thanks to Niko for outlining some of the issues. Thanks to you, Stijn, for helping hold all this together today. Let me thank all of you for watching out there. You can catch up with the latest developments, the latest articles, the latest media appearances, and the latest news from all our research fellows and from the co-directors, Daniela Obertazzi, Stijn van Kessel, on eaworldview.com, on the Populism in Action pages. My thanks to the Economic and Social Sciences Research Council of the University of Birmingham for providing the foundation for this project. My thanks to Josh Allen, the guy behind the scenes who puts us all on your screens. And again, my thanks to you. If you've got any ideas, anything that you want to discuss, drop us a line at eaworldview.com on the PIAP pages, or hit up Populism in Action Project on Twitter or on Facebook. But for now, we're going to draw breath. We'll be back in October with 2 webinars from Dublin, working with our partners in the Clinton Institute at University College Dublin on populism, the state of populism in Europe. Those will be on the 14th of October, the 21st of October. Keep eyes open on Twitter and on PIAP's site on EA Worldview for more information. But until then, y'all be good and be decent to each other. Thanks for watching.